Well, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare came out last week, and Fall Guy comes out this week. Although I haven't found the time to really go to the theater, but I have finally finished watching Shogun. And if any of you have been waiting till it's been complete and totally out to watch it, binge it, or see if it stuck the landing, then now is your time. It's good. Go watch it and enjoy. Shogun is a clever, well written, and well acted show, and is filled with interesting and unique characters that are actually characters with arcs and development and everything. There are good twists and turns and surprises, and you even have some interesting political moves throughout the show. And making politics interesting can be difficult depending on how complicated the system is. But Shogun manages to keep you engaged and educate you on how it works with good, subtle reminders throughout. So even though it's set in Japan during a time a lot of people may not know much about, the show does not treat the audience like they're dumb and constantly have to hold their hands and explain things just directly to camera and audience. They manage to do all this while getting over a language barrier for those who watch it with subtitles. And if you're still debating on watching the show and you don't know if you want to do subtitles or English dub, go for subtitled. Yes, you actually have to focus on the show a lot more and read. But the difference in language and the use of translators is a fundamental part of the show and story. I'll admit, I only watched about a minute of a dubbed episode, and I didn't really do any translator scenes, so I don't know how they handled all of that. But the switching between languages helps to truly highlight how different of a world Blackthorn finds himself in, even if he isn't on the screen. Then, when he is on screen, it allows for great character moments to happen between what he tells Mariko to say and how she translates it, and vice versa. Seeing as the characters trying to understand each other as they trust Mariko to say the right things. The facial expressions and performances from the actors are great. And when the Spaniards aren't around and it's just Mariko and Blackthorn together, it highlights how special their relationship is and how their bond and connection changes throughout the show because they're the only ones that can talk to each other. All these connections and relationships in Shogun are unique and different. While some are simple, others can be more complex, and they change with every major event that happens. Except for a few people, most of the characters aren't one-dimensional. No one is the same person from the start of the show to the end. Alright, I know I've been harping vaguely about the characters a lot so far, and you might be wondering if the show actually has samurai, action, death, and maybe a little sex. Well, the answer is yes. While maybe not as much as one might want, it does have violence, scores, assassinations, and the occasional boob. Oh, and they really love seppuku in this show. Almost everyone attempts it or mentions it at some point. But overall, this show is more about the clever characters taking advantage of their political and honor-based system, how they outsmart each other and gather allies to gather an army for inevitable war, and the lengths people will go to for status and power. There are many other themes and ideas explored in the show, actually, like the fish out of water character of Blackthorn, starting to acclimate to the Japanese way of life and ideals, and how he won't ever fully understand them and their ways, but he also starts to feel foreign towards his own country as well. His schemes and mission from England just start to feel small in comparison to the full scope of what's going on in Japan and what Toranaga is trying to do. But vague praises aside, I will now get a little more specific, including some more praise of the certain characters and their actions, as well as things I didn't like and some thoughts on the end. So while I will try to keep it spoiler light, I can't guarantee anything, so if you want to leave the video now, please like, subscribe, and come back later and let me know what you thought about the show in the comments. Okay, so let's talk about some of my favorite characters. I think my favorite actually would be Toranaga. This man is so smart and just brilliantly acted by
Hiroyuki Sanada.
I still can't tell if Toranaga actually planned for everything to happen or if he's just that good at adapting to situations as they appear, or both. But with every reveal about his overall plan and more about his true nature that he doesn't show anybody, he just becomes more fascinating to watch and wonder what he'll do next to outmaneuver his enemies. He is by no means perfect or a beacon of honor and goodness. He makes sacrifices that are truly hard for him to make and loses people he cares about. But he also makes the best of the situation for himself while keeping the loyalty of his men intact. The one man who he doesn't always have the loyalty of, and is maybe my second favorite character, is Kashigi Yabushige. I say he might be my second character because at the same time, I kind of hate him too. But I love that I hate him. He's not a clever man, but he is good at doing dirty work and fighting. He thinks he's smart and a great strategist, but he really doesn't hold a candle to Toranaga and Ishido. This constantly causes him to be a step behind and to be used as a double agent by everyone. Every time he betrays someone and flip-flop, I always went, come on, man, you just can't keep getting away with it. You have to pick a side already. And he just keeps looking for a good death, but he also panics and changes sides a lot in order to live. So he's one of those characters that you're not really supposed to like, but you like him anyways. And the actor and the character just make him so fun and unique, and I love watching him. It's very different how he talks and how he carries himself in terms of manners compared to everyone else. I had mixed feelings about him finally getting what was coming to him at the end, but it did work with the story and led to some good reveals about Toranaga. I, of course, also like Blackthorn or Asian, whatever. Watched the whole show, still don't know how to say it. I love his dialogue and all the comments about how Japan is different than England, but how both sides think that each other are savages. Once he finally got to fight and use his pistols, I absolutely loved it. I loved his fighting style. I also loved just how much his character changes and the man he turns into, and at the end, he goes through so much and actually changes from it. But since this show apparently ends where the book ends, it doesn't seem like we're really going to get a second season, which is sad because there's still so much more I would want to see Blackthorn go through and see how he actually gets back to England and what kind of man he would have become. And with that, let's go ahead and get into my thoughts about the ending in general. From what I understand, it's pretty accurate to the book, but I did think the last episode had like a noticeable change in, and I hate to use this word, but vibe. I didn't think they needed to show an old Blackthorn with his like grandkids holding what may have been Mariko's cross. He really led to nothing but showed that he survives and makes it back to England. But where the entire season left off, that really didn't need to be shown. Also, I had said the cross in his hand might have been Mariko's because, I mean, it was shown that Blackthorn had dropped it in the sea. Maybe it was just another cross and it gave him memories while he's sitting in his bed. But either way, it was a little confusing, and that just didn't really need to be there at all. And there were things that weren't there. While I do think the last episode had a lot of good things, with all the talk of impending war, I was wanting to see at least like a sizable battle between two armies. But we got more of the I'm so clever, I made it so I would win without shedding any blood stuff. Which is good, and it works perfect with the story and the character they set up, but I still just kind of wanted some more action, you know? So it wasn't a perfect ending in my book, and it feels like there could be a season 2, but from what I understand from a quick Google search, the Shogun book is kind of standalone even though it's kind of a part of a series. It apparently has a loose sequel that is set many years later where they're trying to take down the Shogun and replace an emperor. But if there was a season 2, I wouldn't want them to jump that far. I'd want to see all the things that led up to that sequel. You know, the actual rise of the Shogun. I feel like we just got the beginning. And I want to see, again, what happens to the Blackthorn. And even though the show was well written, it had that source material of the book to be faithful to, or at least pull from. And I don't have faith that they would be able to pull that off for a second season without having any of that source that can kind of show the original creator's voice and vision. So I don't really think or want there to be a second season. You do get an idea of what would happen later from what Toranaga kind of predicts and says his plan would be, and then the actual history of Japan that the story is based on. And with things lacking, I should mention some other things that aren't perfect about this show. And the biggest one in my book being that you don't really have a good idea about how much time has passed. There isn't much dialogue to help in this, just the occasional saying it'll take a week or two. And it seems like they walk most places with the occasional ship fast travel mechanic. And since everything feels so compact and short distance and time together, it also makes it seem like they just kind of have earthquakes every other day. And that the Hanjin learns basic enough Japanese to hold a conversation in a matter of weeks. Some other issues include the actors not giving the best performance, and some of the fighting choreography was lackluster. And those are really the most things that I can nitpick about it. Overall, I did really like this show, and I might even pick up the book now. If I had to score it, I'd probably say it was a 8.5 to a 9 out of 10. But with that said, again, I really don't think it needs a second season. And I guess with that, I'll say that's all for now. Go watch Shogun and let me know what you thought about it. Like and subscribe and comment, and bye.